Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive. Today, we're taking a look at a blog post, From Darkness to Light, Real-Life Stories of Transformation Through Faith.
Sounds pretty powerful.
It is. It's from a blog called The Bible Teaches This, and it's full of these stories, just incredible stories about how faith helped people get through some really, really tough challenges.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing, how faith can make such a big difference in people's lives. It's not just like things change around them, but they change like inside too.
Exactly. Like, it's not just about your situation getting better. It's you who gets better.
Right.
And the post talks about this idea of being a new creation. And that comes from 2 Corinthians 5.17.
Yep.
So for someone who might not be super familiar with the Bible, what does that actually mean? Like when we're talking about change and faith and stuff?
I think, it's like you're starting over in a way. Like the old you, the old way of thinking, the old way of doing things, it's gone. And now you're kind of like a brand new person.
Fresh start.
Yeah. And it's all because of your faith. So it's a pretty powerful image. Like that kind of deep change, that's really possible.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's actually hear about some of these stories, because that's where it all, comes to life. The first one is about a guy named John. He was struggling with addiction. What really stood out to you about John's story?
John's story, it's a pretty powerful reminder of how addiction can really drag someone down, into this really dark place. The post doesn't try to like make it sound better than it is. He really hit rock bottom, but even then there was this little bit of hope. He actually asked God for help.
Yeah, it's interesting because it wasn't like he suddenly had all the answers.
Right.
It was more like, I need help.
Yeah, maybe.
Like just that realization and reaching out.
That's often like the very first step to changing, to changing anything, admitting you can't do it all by yourself. And for John, asking for help led him to a Christian recovery group. And I think being part of that group, all the people there, the support, that was super important for him getting better.
So it wasn't just like faith by itself, right?
Right.
It was faith plus actually doing something, taking action, like finding people who could support him.
Exactly. The blog post talks about how, John being committed to the recovery program, prayer and his faith, all of those things together, like worked to help him overcome his addiction. And what's even more inspiring? He's actually using his experience now to help other people who are struggling with addiction too.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
Like it just shows you that change can spread. It's not just about one person. It affects everyone around them.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to Sarah's story. This one's about healing from like deep emotional pain. And the blog post talks about how, childhood trauma, it could really leave these lasting wounds.
Yeah.
And I think, it's really important to acknowledge that trauma can have a really big impact on people. It can make them feel, broken, like they're lost. But Sarah's story, it's like a message of hope. It shows that even really deep wounds, they can heal.
Yeah. So the blog post says that Sarah struggled with anxiety and depression and like feeling worthless.
Yeah.
And this went on for years. She felt like trapped in all that darkness. So what was the turning point for her?
Well, it was actually something really simple. A friend of hers invited her to church, and that really like opened her up to seeing things differently. The blog post doesn't really like go into the details of her past trauma, but it focuses on, how she found peace and strength through her faith.
It makes me think sometimes all it takes is just one person, just one little thing to make a huge change. It really is true. And for Sarah, connecting with other people at church and going to therapy, those things helped her find peace and healing. It's a good reminder that faith and professional help, they're not like opposite things. They can actually like work really well together.
Yeah, they can really complement each other. It's true.
Yeah.
And Sarah's story, it shows that change isn't always like simple.
Yeah.
It's not always a straight line, right?
Yeah.
It can be messy, and you might need help from different people and places along the way.
Absolutely. And in Sarah's case, it led her from this place of so much pain to a place of, happiness and purpose.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. The last story we'll talk about in this section is about Michael. And he faced a different kind of darkness, financial despair.
Yeah.
The blog post describes how he lost his job, was deep in debt, and just felt totally overwhelmed.
I mean, financial problems, they can be so stressful, it can make you feel insecure and question everything. But Michael's story shows that faith, it's not just about comfort, it can also give you like practical guidance.
Right. So the post mentions that when Michael really hit rock bottom, he turned to God for help. It sounds like he was just searching for any way out. Just what do I do?
Yeah. And it's interesting how they talk about prayer in Michael's story. It wasn't just about asking for a miracle, it was more about finding peace and clarity in all the
So it
chaos.
was more about connecting with something bigger than himself,
Yeah.
like finding that strength and wisdom to help him make those tough decisions.
Exactly. And through prayer, Michael started to feel like he had some direction. He ended up finding a new job. He got some unexpected financial help. And he even he started learning about, how the Bible talks about managing your money,
Oh, wow.
which, helped him get his finances in order. So it's a really good example of how faith can actually influence our everyday choices.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've heard these three pretty different stories, right? Addiction, emotional pain, and then money problems. But they all have one thing in common, it seems like, and that's how faith helped them change.
Yeah, totally. It doesn't matter what kind of darkness you're facing. Faith can always bring light and hope and healing.
And I love that the post doesn't just tell us these really inspiring stories.
Yeah.
It actually gives us five practical steps. Anyone can use these if they want to experience this kind of change through faith. It's like a roadmap
It really
for
is.
personal growth.
Yeah. And that first step is the key,
Mm.
recognizing that, we need God.
Oh yeah, acknowledging our need for God, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds simple enough, but I bet that's actually a really tough step for a lot of people,
It is. It's hard to admit you need help.
like swallowing your pride, huh?
Exactly. It's about saying, okay, I don't have all the answers. I can't do this alone. And the blog post actually quotes a verse from the Bible, Psalm 34.17. It says, "The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them. He delivers them from all their troubles." It's a reminder that it's okay to ask for help, to lean on, a higher power.
I can definitely see how that could be a huge turning point, especially for someone who's used to being in control of everything.
Right.
So once you acknowledge that you need help, what's next?
Well, then it's surrender, letting go of the need to control every little thing and trusting in God's plan.
Oh wow, that sounds like a really big leap of faith, especially when you don't even know what the plan is.
It can be. But the blog post makes it clear, for real change to happen, we've got to let go of the wheel, let God guide us. It's about trading all our anxieties and fears for trust in his goodness and wisdom.
I think about those times when I'm just stressing about something and trying to make it work out my way, and it just makes everything worse.
Mhm.
Maybe surrender is kind of like realizing, okay, it's time to step back and have faith that things will work themselves out.
Exactly. It's not about being passive,
Yeah.
just sitting back and doing nothing. It's more about realizing, hey, sometimes the best thing you can do is let go and trust a power that's bigger than us.
That's a great way to put it. Okay, so we've acknowledged that we need help,
Yeah.
and we've surrendered to God's will. What's the next step on this journey?
Well, the third step is about turning to the Bible for guidance, to dive into scripture and let those words shape the way we think and feel.
So it's not just having a Bible on the shelf, right?
Yeah.
It's about actually engaging with it.
Exactly. It's about making it a part of your daily life, letting those old truths, speak to us now. The blog post suggests, try reading the Bible every day and really think about what you read. That can help us see things differently and align our thoughts with, God's wisdom.
Now, I've heard people say that, reading certain parts of the Bible can be so powerful, like it's speaking directly to their situation. It's almost like the Bible is alive,
Hmm.
offering guidance and comfort no matter what you're going through.
That's right. It's not just a history book, It's full of wisdom that can help us navigate all the complicated stuff in life.
Okay, so we've acknowledged, we've surrendered, and we've got scripture. What comes after that?
Prayer, talking to God, and really making that a consistent part of our lives.
So it's more than a quick prayer before dinner.
It can be, yeah. But it's also about really making time, setting aside time for a real heartfelt conversation with God.
Okay.
Sharing your joys and sorrows, asking for guidance, being thankful, and just being in his presence.
So it's like building a real personal relationship.
Yeah.
Right? It's not just us talking at God. It's a back and forth.
That's a great way to think about it. Prayer is what keeps us connected, It lets us experience God's love and grace and guidance.
Okay, cool. We're at the last step now. What's the final one?
This one's about community. Surrounding yourself with supportive people.
Finding your people, the ones who really get you and support you, huh?
Exactly. The post really emphasizes how important it is to connect with other believers, people who can encourage us, keep us accountable, and celebrate our wins. It's about finding a place where you can be yourself, talk about your struggles, and grow alongside others.
That makes a lot of sense. It's hard to go through any big life change on your own. Having people around you, especially people who share your faith, can make such a difference.
It's so true. You need people who can cheer you on when you're feeling strong, pick you up when you fall, and remind you of God's love when you feel lost. Community can really be the key to making those changes last.
Yeah, I agree. So these 5 steps, they seem pretty simple on the surface, but I bet they take a lot of effort.
They do. Change doesn't just happen. You have to really want it, be willing to put in the work, and trust in God. But the stories we've talked about today, they show us that it is possible. Anyone, no matter what they've been through or what they're going through right now, can experience this kind of transformation through faith.
Wow. So we've explored these really incredible stories of transformation, and we've got this like roadmap, these 5 steps. So what's the big takeaway? What do you hope our listeners, walk away with today?
Well, I think the biggest message here is hope. No matter how tough things get, there's always a way out, a way to move from brokenness to wholeness.
It's kind of like those old sayings, right? It's always darkest before the dawn, or the sun always shines after the rain. Like when you hear about how John, Sarah, and Michael, they all found their way out of their struggles, it just reminds me of those.
Yeah, they really capture the heart of these stories. They remind us we're not alone in our struggles. There's a power greater than us, a love that can heal, even the deepest wounds, a light that can cut through any darkness.
And it all starts with faith, right? With believing that change is possible even when you can't see it yet.
That's exactly what faith is all about, isn't it? It's about trusting in something we can't always see or fully understand. It's about taking that first step, even when you're scared, and believing that you'll find your footing.
So what would you say to someone listening right now who's feeling, I don't know, lost, hopeless, maybe even trapped in their own darkness?
Don't give up. There's hope. There's healing. There's a light out there to guide you. And it all starts with a simple prayer, just a cry for help. It starts with acknowledging, that you need God and opening yourself up to the possibility of change, of transformation.
That's really powerful. And I think what these stories really drive home is that transformation, it's not a destination, it's a journey. There are going to be ups and downs, moments of doubt, moments of clarity. But as long as we keep moving forward, keep searching, keep believing, we'll find our way to the light.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone. There are people out there ready to support you, to encourage you, to walk beside you every step of the way.
Well, that's it for today. Another deep dive complete. We've explored how faith can transform lives, heard inspiring stories from people who've walked this path, and even got some practical advice on how to start our own journeys of transformation.
May these stories and insights give you hope and inspire you to take that first step toward a brighter future.
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep seeking the light.